let me actually to demonstrate this. Let me just actually record your voice.
All right. This is a test. I was actually I actually wanted to try it out with like vocals specifically because a lot of you hear a lot of songs that have that kind of that kind of effect before the vocals come in, just like this wall of echo.
Right. Can you
Yeah.
hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Cool. So I just got that. I'm gonna go ahead and hit the share screen button, and so you guys can see what I'm doing in Ableton. So we can just go over that.
Cool.
Can you guys still hear me?
Yep.
Okay, beautiful. All right. So by the way, pro tip: the way I got that, the recording of what I you just said is through this
Yeah.
program called Audio Hijack, and it's free.
Is that on Windows as well? Because I used to use virtual audio cable, but it's been acting weird lately.
I don't know if it's on Windows. It might be.
Yeah,
Um,
I'll look it up.
but
I'll
yeah, it's free and it works really nicely. Um, so
Is
I,
is that comparable to Soundflower or like same sort of thing? Like, do you use the same sort of thing that you do your streams with, or is it a completely different uh,
um,
monster?
it's a bit different. I think Soundflower is useful for outputting audio to a certain place,
Uh-huh.
like say up to YouTube or whatever.
Mhm.
But this is just for recording, say, a sample you wanted to get off of YouTube and you didn't want to download it or whatever,
Ah,
or you couldn't download
okay.
it. So here is the vocal.
this is a test. I was actually I actually wanted to try it out with like vocals
You guys hearing
specifically
that?
because a lot of
Mhm.
you hear a lot of songs that
Okay.
have that kind of
So I forget the exact number of steps or the order, but basically, let's just experiment with this. I think I reverse the vocal first, so it sounds like this. Right, and let me just create a copy of this, and we're just going to call this original, and then this is going to be the reverb, and then for the original, I'm going to go ahead and put a reverb on there and put the dry wet all the way up, make it really big. Then I'm going to go ahead and freeze that. And then I'm going to flatten it. And then I'm going to reverse what we just did.
Right. So flattening it just makes it one waveform with no effects, I guess, or like it obviously retains the effects, but it doesn't. It just displays it. It's like it's as if you're exporting it.
Right.
Yeah, it's like bouncing it to audio. Yeah.
Okay.
So let me just try that, see if it worked, because it might have not worked.
This is a test. I was actually I actually wanted to try it out with like vocals specifically because a lot of you hear a lot of songs that have that kind of effect before the vocals come in, just like this wall of echo. This is a test.
That's basically it, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So what I did was, let me just undo that. So I took your vocal, the original dry vocal,
This is a test.
and then I reversed it,
Yep.
and then I added reverb.
Mm-hmm.
And then I go ahead and flatten that, freeze it, flatten it, bounce it to audio, and then reverse it.
This is a test. I was actually I actually wanted to try it out with like vocals specifically because
But it's really great for like, I did this technique when I worked on a student film, and my job was to do like the dialogue. And for a portion of the film, this guy's like going crazy. He's hearing voices in his head, and this is a great way of making voices sound like they're in your head and like you're going crazy or whatever.
yeah, or if they were ghosts or something.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's very popular in like EDM vocal production.
Yeah, absolutely.
it's always like right before like
right before the line starts.
Yeah, the first
Yeah.
verse, or like they could do that for like a bridge or something like that. I've heard that.
Totally.
Hmm.
Cool. So that's basically that.
Yeah.
Any questions there?
No, that's pretty straightforward.
Yeah.
I used to do it like with like the first process where you have like the dry vocal and then you'll throw the reverb on and then reverse it and then freeze and flatten it and like do it that way. But then doing it with both, like the dry signal and the wet, that just opened a whole nother can of worms there. So pretty exciting.
Yeah, using
Cool.
both of them.
I didn't really have so much a question as far as like production. I think one of my main, like, just like the things that I've been working on in terms of balance of like creating content, is just like gaining like a substantial and engaging following, like just getting like a little bit of momentum and like trying to get something there. Cause you know, like obviously that's not where I want to focus all of my energy, but just getting some sort of momentum to where people are listening to my music. And I'm not sure like where to put all of my energy just yet. So if you have any tips whatsoever, that'd be much obliged.
It's a great question. I mean, getting to like 0 to 100 followers is the hardest step. 0 to 100, 100 to 1,000. Getting from basically 0 to 1, that's just the hardest fucking step.
Yeah.
Because there's so much noise, so many people trying to do the same thing, that to get beyond that is very hard. It's very hard. It's no secret, obviously, that branding is a huge component of it. Probably like 85%, maybe 100%, depending on how cynical your worldview is. And it's very important to cultivate that. It's very important to cultivate a brand and a way to stand out. Now, aside from that, in terms of getting heard, I think what's useful is, say you're 100% satisfied with your music, right? Or maybe say like, let's say 80% satisfied. And maybe while you were mixing your track down, if you were to follow my advice and maybe the advice of some other guys on YouTube, you would pick reference tracks, right? Tracks that sound similar to you, that are in the same genre, maybe your artistic aspirations, right? And then find artists, I guess, from those reference tracks that are similar to you, say like 5 or 10, and then see who wrote about those artists, who blogged about them, who posted their music, who put them in Spotify playlists, what labels put them out, what YouTubers posted about them, what Instagram stars or whatever the fuck posted about them. I don't pick your social media of choice. But basically, find the people who wrote about these people, who shared about these people, and pitch your music to them directly. Try to avoid submission inboxes, because those generally are graveyards and nobody checks them. Try to find the people behind the label or behind the Spotify playlist or whatever, and see if you can pitch to them directly saying, hey, I really like what you wrote about so-and-so. Mind if I pass something along? You know, if they say no, obviously wait a few days and then maybe follow up. But create a spreadsheet of like 50 to 100 of those people, and then just ping them. Go ahead.
Yeah, just to add to that, if there are any artists in your area that you sort of want, like, are in the same sort of genre, or you want to emulate that kind of style, see where they started and whether like they hold events with like some sort of small time label or collective, and you know, just network there. Basically, you might find out like who their old manager used to be and whether they still you know, they're interested in beats and stuff, and you sending stuff out, like.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, see if you can offer something of value.
Yeah.
Right? because them listening to your music, they're doing you a favor.
Exactly. And like when I have zero, like I think like somewhere around the ballpark of like 200 followers on SoundCloud, and I just got started on like DistroKid, Spotify, and all that. I have very little like not collateral, but just like anything worth value or exchange. Like I have zero currency right now. But like I think what's been working lately, or at least I feel is like actually engaging with these artists and not like asking for any favors right off the bat. Like one of my favorites right now is Byrocratic.
Yeah.
And obviously it's a real big problem of people like using other people's songs. And like I heard one of his songs on like one of these like lo-fi Instagram pages, and there's no credit to him or anything like that. And I just added him on Instagram, and just like doing like little things like that. And maybe I won't be like, oh, hey, Byrocratic, get me on a playlist or anything like that. But like if he were to see my name, further down the line, I figured that would help. But
right. Absolutely. Like, so that's a great example of offering something of value, which doesn't necessarily have to do with social currency or clout.
Right.
It's like just treating them as a decent human being and doing them a favor.
Yeah.
And people appreciate that a lot. And I would appreciate that. And I mean, when people just send me links like, oh, please roast, I'm like,
I can only imagine.
So yeah, definitely developing relationships with these people is helpful. But I think they have to be genuine. So you could either approach it one of two ways. You could either basically do the ask from the get-go, like be upfront and be like, okay, I'm pitching something to you, and obviously do it in a gentle, respectful manner. Don't be like, please check out my SoundCloud. Be like, hey, I really liked what you did. It would really mean a lot to me if you check this out, blah, blah, blah. Be a nice guy about it. Either be upfront from the get-go or really try and develop a relationship with these people over, a longer period of time.
Right.
What I found to be sort of awkward, the awkward middle ground between the two is you strike up a conversation with them like maybe once or twice, and then you do the ask. It's really obvious that you just talked to them because you wanted something from them. So at least that's from my personal experience.
Yeah.
There it's so I would if you're really trying to develop a relationship with this person, do that. Or if you really want to be upfront and have it be more like a transaction, then do that upfront. There's nothing wrong with that either. But it's the awkward middle ground of pretending to be friends but really looking at it from a transactional standpoint that is, I think, the most unbecoming.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And that makes sense. I mean, all of these people are really busy, obviously, in their own, endeavors. And I can only imagine just like the amount of people that engage them. And I don't want to be in that awkward middle ground whatsoever. So yeah, you make a great point. Appreciate that. One question I do have for you, like, what was like one of those first milestones, like say like the first blog that posted your original music, and like how did you engage with them? Was that like a direct pitch, or was it the latter, like developing a relationship with the artist or the label and doing it that way? Like, do you remember your first like breakthrough either on a blog or a label or anything of that nature?
Yeah, I mean, in terms of both cases, I think the first blog post I was somewhat excited for was getting on Nest.
Oh, yes.
And there, it was like my friend knew one of the writers from Nest, and he was like, yeah, just pitch your music to the guy. And I think I'd probably just send him a Facebook message more along the lines of being upfront and being like, hey, I really like what you wrote. Ming, my friend of a friend, my connection with him was like thinking that I should pass something along. and then he just happened to like it. And then my first, I guess, label thing was the Chill Hop Winter Essentials from last year. And then once again, that was like, I knew a guy who had released music with them before. I just put out a song with him. His name is Arbor, something like that.
Oh yeah.
I was like, what's the best? I just asked him, I was like, what's the best way to contact Chill Hop? And he was like, yeah, I just reached out to this guy. And then I think I just sent him an email, and he just happened to really like it.
Yeah.
So in both of those cases, I took the approach of being upfront and like just making it a pitch. And then I think I just got lucky. Because it really is just, it's kind of a spray and pray approach, you know what I mean? But yeah, I think in both those cases, it took real relationships, or somewhat real. I've never met Arbor in person, but we talk over the internet from time to time. Somewhat real relationships as sort of intermediaries to maybe get to the people behind something like Chill Hop or Nest. Right. But really, honestly, the friendships in between, in either case, I don't think they were essential. I think I could have just pitched them up front coldly without knowing them previously.
I think your timing was really good too, because like obviously like Chill Hop isn't taking open submissions or anything like that right now. Like they've pretty much blown up even from last year's standpoint.
Yeah.
And Nest HQ, is that, I think if I remember correctly, that's like a smaller like Skrillex thing or
yeah.
Yeah. I think timing, like looking for something that is like in the process of growing, and trying to target that is a good thing too. But that's awesome. I like to hear your story personally. It gives me a lot of insight. That's cool.
Absolutely. Yeah. And in terms of timing, yeah, a lot of it's just luck. Straight up. Yeah. And I think in terms of ways to grow as an artist right now, I think most people generally are moving away from SoundCloud. And I think most people are trying to get placements on Spotify playlists.
Yeah.
I think that's, in terms of the trend nowadays and what's growing, that seems to be the area that is kind of open season right now.
Yeah. People use Clip at all?
Clip It?
Clip It, yeah, that's the one.
Yeah. So I mean, I get a lot of row submissions via Clip It, and it's a great way of sharing music, but I don't think there's much of a community aspect built in.
Yeah. It seems very anonymous.
Yeah, it's for like whips.
Yeah. Possibly.
Maybe there's a way to I don't know, gain a following off of Clip It. I'm sure there is. I just don't know about it.
Yeah.
As far as like Spotify, I think you're right, and when you're talking in terms of people migrating over there, because they did just recently give the option for just any artist to submit to their playlist.
Yes.
Really?
Yeah. So if you have a distributor, I use DistroKid.
DistroKid, yeah.
And you plan for a future release, I do it like 7 days or however many days you think it'll take. But you do it like a few days prior. The earlier the better, and you give like a brief description of your track and like you pick a genre and a subgenre and stuff like that, and you can send it directly to their curators. And if they like it, you'll get on there, or I'm not sure if that's like that'll work for anybody. But I just tried it for the first time last week. But I think that's pretty cool that they offer that for any artist.
Absolutely. And if you guys are looking for like a really, really useful guide for pitching to Spotify playlists, you guys know this guy, Booty Voot?
No.
Spotify. So this guy was San Holo's manager.
Whoa.
No, might be. And he was the guy who kind of was responsible for him blowing up.
Oh, for Heroic. Yeah.
Yes, for Heroic. Yeah, exactly.
Oh, dude, that guy's brilliant.
He is very, very smart. And he wrote this thing called the SoundCloud Bible. The date is, you know, probably the best marketing book on the platform, but obviously it's on the decline. So he just put this out a couple months ago, where I think it was just a guide for getting on Spotify playlists.
All right.
Yeah, I highly recommend you guys check this out. This guy is really smart, and this article that he wrote for getting on playlists is actually very, very useful.
Cool.
He makes a good point with regards to that option that you just mentioned, where we can now pitch to editorial playlists directly. Editorial playlists still make up a very small fraction of all the playlists on Spotify. Most of the playlists are just regular people. There's the playlist done by Spotify, so the editorial team that's in-house. There's playlists done by big major labels like Warner, Universal, etc. That they have big playlists. And then the last category of playlists, which is much, much bigger, are people just, you know, regular people. But once again, it's still the same game. It's just a matter of finding playlists that are relevant to your genre, to your style, and finding the people behind those playlists and pitching them, like you said, a couple weeks in advance. And then,
That's really cool. Awesome. Definitely, I need to just like put out more content in general, and instead of just like releasing it right away, like plan it and have a place for every release. Because like, I mean, I'm not going to be releasing like, you know, a full studio album or anything of that nature, but I think planning releases, and like, if I remember correctly, also, if you use a platform more often or like consecutively and like in a certain amount of time, like I heard through the grapevine, like that kind of helps you as well. Like if you continue to use a platform, like I guess they take notice of that or something. I don't know. I could be wrong though.
Well, I think your fans on that platform will take notice.
Yeah.
Because eventually they'll come to expect, every, you know, week or every 2 weeks, Pixel Wax has got a new track out. And so they'll be ready to check that. And you know, that's why uploading on a consistent schedule is super useful. And communicating that schedule is even more useful. So that's why I do a video every Thursday, live stream every Sunday, and then I put that information on my YouTube banner so that people know to look for that. With music, it's tougher. I mean, personally for me, because I don't, you know, I'm much more precious about my music.
Yeah.
Videos. And I don't think I could commit to one a week.
No way.
Seems tough.
Yeah, maybe to something like once a month, if that. But once again, it really depends on your goals. You know, an artistic goal of mine is to release, like you were saying, a full-length studio album. And so I'm working on that now.
Awesome.
But if I wanted, you know, to look at it purely from a marketing standpoint, the full-length album is not a good idea because it only brings essentially one promotional point. Whereas, meaning that the album is out, and that's like one point in time. Whereas spreading out singles over time offers many, many more promotional points. And as a result,
what many artists do.
Exactly. So, and that's what new artists do to establish a following, and they usually do it relatively consistently and primarily on one platform, so that their audience knows to look for that.
Right.
Yeah. A great example of somebody who does this really, really well is a guy named Valentine.
Oh, dude, he's amazing.
And Valentine, kind of hard to Google, but other than that, very good. So yeah, this guy's really good, really talented, but the way it seemed like he has an album coming out, but he's basically just put out a single
every week
or something like that.
Yeah, he's been releasing it once every week or like once every 2 weeks, depending on like what his schedule's been. But like everything that's come out of that has been really, really good stuff. And like you were saying, like I've been engaging with him as an artist more just because I've been seeing him release one every week. So he's getting both the things done. He's releasing consistent amount of content, but it's under the same album and the same like cohesive like artistic thing. It's pretty cool.
Right, absolutely. Yeah, and in terms of branding, the look, and all that, it's all very consistent as well. And yeah, I think it was very smart on his part to do it like this. And also, incidentally, a lot of these are collabs, and they feature a lot of people. And collabs and features are a great way to expand your network as well. Now, I wonder, it takes a certain kind of person to be able to collab effectively with people over the internet, and that might not align with your artistic pursuits. For example, I don't think they align with mine that much. But if they do align, and you're able to do it well, as this guy obviously is able to, then once again, great marketing incentive as well, because you can trade reposts. You guys know what repost trading is?
Yeah, like repost for repost.
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, that's probably been the most effective way of me gaining a bigger following.
Sorry, what is it?
So
Repost raining?
Repost trading, like trading cards.
Okay.
So repost trade is basically I'll repost your track if you repost mine.
Right.
And generally, you trade with people that have around the same following as you do, around the same number of followers, so that it's not skewed. And generally, you repost trade with people that I guess have maybe some overlap with your following, so that it's relevant to them, but not so overlapped that either of you get anything out of it.
Right.
So it was the number one way for people to grow on SoundCloud, and it still is.
Mm-hmm.
But it's also the reason why SoundCloud is part of the reason, in my opinion, why SoundCloud is declining, because people started reposting each other's tracks constantly because they figured out it was the number one way to grow. Mm-hmm. And as a result, everyone's feeds got saturated with lower and lower quality content.
Right.
And something called repost. Oh, what the fuck? Okay, it says free meeting will end in 10 minutes. So we got 10 minutes. Okay. That sucks. I guess we'll have to do these more often. Anyways, what I was saying was repost chains started happening. And basically a repost chain is, if you join one, every time you post a track, everyone in the chain will repost it. But anytime anyone else in the chain reposts or posts the track, you have to repost it as well automatically. So what that ended up with is everybody reposting each other's tracks constantly without really listening. And that's partially why, in my opinion, it became harder and harder and harder for people to engage on SoundCloud, because everyone's feeds just got super saturated. So if you didn't have a repost network like that, you were basically fucked.
Honestly, that's why I got rid of it for a while. Is I'm just like, what is this? What is this trash? And I mean, I agree wholeheartedly. Like that's why part of it is
it's a blessing and a curse.
Yeah,
it was like the strongest thing, and really the thing that developed the community there, which I think SoundCloud still has. But you're absolutely right. There's a detrimental aspect to that as well.
How do you feel about if it's the right, say, I gave it a shot. I think it was last month or something like that. Night Owl Collective.
Yeah.
So they offer a promotional service, and I've been listening to their stuff coming out of their collective for quite a bit of time, and it's really, really good stuff for the most part. And so I just asked him about it because I think his name's Johnny, And I think it was like $20, and it's like a 48-hour repost. And obviously, it has to be reviewed and stuff like that. And if they think your content's good enough, they'll repost it. And I think I got like 3,500 plays or something like that out of it. And it was real people like listening to the song and like engaging with it. And I think it also touches up on the part that you were talking about earlier. It was like there's that the genres and like the stuff that you listen to, and like if it's a good fit. And it really did work. It's just like paying $20 like each time is just kind of, I don't know.
Yeah. So I've done that too. I've done the exact same thing where I pitched something to Johnny and I paid, I don't know, $15-$20 and he reposted the track. I've also pitched to him many times outside of that and then never got anything out of that.
Yep. I get it.
But we're all trying to eat. Anyways, yeah, so paid reposts definitely exist, and I don't think there's anything unethical about that. Unfortunately, the internet has kind of become a pay-to-play place for the most part. I mean, Facebook ads, great example, Instagram ads. You can pay for Twitter followers, you can pay for reposts and stuff like that. I think it only really works if, like you said, it's with real people, and if it's a place and an audience that makes sense to what you're doing.
Right.
Like, you probably wouldn't ask for a repost on, I don't know, Country Step. I don't know.
Yeah.
But it is shitty where it's no longer, if you take that to its logical extreme, it's no longer based on merit or the quality of your music. It's just based on how much money.
Money, yeah.
So,
I'm just trying to find a balance of the two.
mm-hmm.
Like, I get that people need to make a living, and obviously I want to monetize my content at some point. But when it's just like, hey, you need to throw X amount of dollars to get this much clout, it's just kind of it's like a real big kick to my dick.
Absolutely.
I mean, just be glad DistroKid doesn't have that. Like, it's not like you have to pay a certain amount to release stuff, as far as I know.
No, yeah, and
need to.
It's a 20. I think it's like I'm doing like the $30 one in case I ever did decide.
There is.
Yeah, I did that like in case like I ever did decide to do a label, and also in order to get on a Spotify playlist or submit to one, you have to pick the higher costing one just to pre-release it, if that makes sense.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they changed it, I think.
Oh, shit. I didn't know that.
At least when I tried to do it the first time, it's like, oh, you can't do this. And I was like, oh, well, let me.
So with the pre-release, does that mean there's like a private Spotify URI that you can send to labels and playlists that you can't search up? Is that how it works?
So like through DistroKid, there's a pre-release date, and then it instead of saying like, oh, you're live, it says, oh, it's gotten to Amazon. And then Spotify, it's late. Then there's that Spotify for Artists app, or the Artist for Spotify desktop thing. And you log in with your name there, and it pops up and it said, okay, this is going to be released at this date. And that, essentially, like, that's it. I wasn't able to do that with the $20 like standard DistroKid thing. It had to be different. It had to be the higher tier one.
Interesting.
Or I could have been just mistaken, but it said I couldn't do it.
Yeah, I'll have to do some research on that, because it's very hard to market yourself on Spotify and pitch to playlists if you don't have the pre-release option.
Exactly.
It's like impossible.
Yeah. And if you can't pre-release and you can't time your content, then like really, what's the point? Like you're throwing it into limbo essentially.
And just crossing your fingers that somebody will listen to it.
I had just a quick question.
Sure.
I guess my issue right now is just having like not having anything released, and so like I'm good at meeting people and telling them, oh, I tend to produce from time to time, but you know, when they ask me for my SoundCloud, I'm like, everything is private, and I don't really have anything on there right now. Like, I think it's just like an inhibition in me to release stuff because I'm scared of failure or critique, I guess, and I'm not really sure how to really overcome that.
It's hard. I've definitely not released songs or felt really bad about releasing them if they didn't get a certain number of plays or something like that.
Yeah.
Or somebody wrote like a shitty comment. I think at a certain point you just kind of have to put yourself out there. I mean, we're all artists here. Eventually we do have to put ourselves out there. And after you bomb, and trust me, whatever anguish you might experience is not nearly as bad as, you know, people booing at you in person, which I've also experienced. So, however bad it may be, you will be stronger for it.
Yeah.
One insurance policy you can create for yourself so that you are guaranteed for people to listen, not necessarily guaranteed for people to like it, but create that promo strategy.
Yeah.
And then that way you won't run into the problem where you know, it's release day and then you get like, I don't know, 10 plays.
Do you think putting yourself like under deadlines can help with that?
Absolutely. Speaking of deadlines, we have less than a minute left here. Fortunately, I'm going to have to wrap this up. I might even like resend another link. I think that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to resend another link to the Discord. You guys can join it. We'll talk for another like 5 or 10 minutes.
Cool. Sure thing.
And then we'll be done.
Awesome.
But yeah, let me just do that. I'll see you guys in 2 seconds. So yeah, I was going to say, with regards to deadlines help tremendously. And I think a good thing to do would be, you know, I mean, I'm sure you guys have all heard this self-help bullshit before, but it works. Daily goals, medium-term goals, and long-term goals always help. So daily goal for me is to produce at least an hour every day. You got to do that no matter what. It can be the most agonizing hour, whatever. I have to do it. Then say, weekly goal, put out a video. Long-term goal, get to a certain number of subscribers or release an album or something like that. And then, sticking to those deadlines, I think, help you improve vastly. Because otherwise it's like,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Definitely the setting of goals. Like, it's funny that you brought that up. Like, I literally just, Amazon dropped off the package, but like, it's a daily planner and it's got monthly, weeklies, but like it sets it up so detailed where like you almost have to make a bullet list of exactly what you're going to do. And I think like being honest with yourself and like holding yourself accountable, and like setting realistic goals is super important too. And it doesn't have to be like, as far as like, releasing a song on SoundCloud, like you mentioned earlier that you had a problem with that.
Yeah.
But like timing yourself and like setting goals for like, okay, I'm going to do this track in this amount of minutes, or I'm going to set this amount of time for percussion. Like even small goals like that will help you create your own personal workflow and get you the ball rolling like in the right spot, I think.
Yeah, I think doing that will help, just like setting daily goals. Because right now I really have nothing to showcase. So, if people come up to me and say, "Hey, what kind of beats do you make?" I'm like literally unfinished stuff. It's just loops at this point.
Show your art, man. Like,
yeah,
you're not it's not like you're going to win a Grammy right now,
Right.
like don't, like, I think like that was the hardest part for me, was like to actually put myself out there. And obviously like Underbelly's Discord was like a really good place for me to just be like, okay, I'm gonna put some stuff out there. And it ended up, working
Maybe
out.
that should be like the intermediate step for me. It's just to put it in the feedback channel, and just when I'm satisfied with the roasts and how much I've improved upon it, maybe then I'll just release it. Maybe that's what I should do. Like,
and go on other Discords and like, display them there. Like there's so like Discord communities, like there's so many of them, and there's really healthy ones out there. And I think UB's is like one of the better ones, but like share them out there and put it out to complete strangers, because you might be pleasantly surprised with the reaction. We're our own worst critics.
Yeah,
Totally.
That's really true.
Do you have anybody in person, like somebody that you trust that you've ever showed your music to, or?
My close college friends, basically, my family.
So with your close college friends, do you send it to them, or are you listening in like the same room?
I send it to them. I don't usually. Yeah, I'm usually just, we're not usually together.
Right. So oftentimes, honestly, feedback over the internet is really helpful. And I totally second what Pixel Wax said. Send it to the Discord. You'll be, I think, pleasantly surprised with the results. But I think there's also value in actually sitting with the person that you trust and playing music in the same room together. Because often what I find there is, when I'm listening to the track with another person there, I'm no longer really listening to the track itself. I'm listening to the other person listen to the track. And through them listening, I can kind of feel out the energy in the room. I can feel out when they're getting bored, or when they're, I don't know, pulling out their phone or fidgeting or whatever, So they don't even necessarily even have to say it. I can like feel the parts where it's lacking.
That seems like a vulnerable thing, like a super
Absolutely.
vulnerable moment.
Absolutely. Which is why you should do it with somebody that you trust, and especially with somebody that you trust the opinion of. Now, somebody like your mom, she's going to be like, "Oh, that's so great, honey. Great job." And she's not going to be honest with you. She doesn't know what the fuck, Ableton is or whatever.
Yeah. You're so good at Ableton, honey.
You're so good at Ableton, honey. So I would do it with somebody, and on the same token, on the opposite spectrum, don't show it to some random dude that you barely know and have him be like, "Oh, this needs more bass," whatever, or the drop's not sick enough, bro.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So just find somebody that you trust, and I think if you're up for it, I think that exercise of listening in the same room, super, super informative.
Absolutely.
Cool, man. Awesome. So I think that pretty much wraps it up, unless you guys have any last thoughts about that.
No, man. I already got my money's worth.
That's it. Yeah. I think for next week, I'll definitely have some session ready, maybe just to work off that idea that you had of like each person kind of showing what they do when they're making tracks.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe have something ready for that.
Yeah, exactly. The cool thing about Zoom is that we can all see each other's DAWs and listen to the computer audio. So
cool.
Yeah, we should definitely do that.
All right.
Anyways, thank you so much, guys. Really appreciate it.
Appreciate you, man.
All right. Take care.
Later. You too.